Following up with Module 1, I wanted to cover a few topics and talk just a few things, less than 5 minutes, I hope. So creativity is not just talking about art. It's not just talking about creating a masterpiece and going to an art gallery. We can be creative in everything we do. The other day, my son was mowing the yard and he was bored. It was the last of several yards that he mows for the summer, and he actually created a design in the grass. Silly, right? But he was being creative, and that was a form of creativity. He was playing, he was using his imagination. That's the key here. So I don't want you, when you're thinking about examples and application, especially into the classroom and to teaching standards, whether it's math or reading or science or social studies, that art, when we talk about being creative, we're not just talking about a piece of art or an art process. We're talking about a process of the learning experience. And that experience can be a lot of different things, and it can look a lot of different ways. I also wanted to point out process versus product. Those can get really hard. So don't be frustrated by that assignment. I know it was hard, and some of you I asked to actually redo it. And so we're going to be coming back to that idea throughout the semester. If you were really confused by it, let me know. I'll give you some additional readings or some videos. But in general, just know we're going to come back to that. Look at that lecture I gave with the assignment, trying to walk through the differentiation of the two elements as well. Also, I wanted to talk briefly about standards and the creative experiences. The whole point of that assignment was understanding and seeing for yourself that standards, whether they're the Kansas Early Learning Standards or the Common Core or any of the Kansas academic standards for K-12, standards are not exclusive of creative experiences. And creative experiences is not exclusive of reaching standards. It's how we do it that marries them together. And really, when you look at the Kansas Early Learning Standards, you saw language in the domains that were not academic. You saw language and standards and benchmarks that would force one to use creative, collaborative experiences, which our textbook talks about, the 4 C's: communication, collaborative, creative, and I'm missing one. I'm gonna have to look. This is why I let you guys use your notes too, because see, I don't even always know. So creative, communication, collaboration, and critical thinking. So when we're addressing all 4 of those, we will see those, or individually, we'll see them in the standards, and they are there. And they're really forcing us to implement creative experiences if we're truly teaching all the standards. But if we only teach a certain set or a certain skill, then we're not teaching all the domains. We're not addressing all the domains, if you will. And so that's what limits us. And then last, I also wanted to connect that back to Ken Robb, and he talks about how schools are killing creativity because, as his point is we're teaching skills, we're teaching literacy, we're teaching math, but we're not teaching kids to think critically. So you can only do math so long before, if you don't know how to think critically or communicate your thinking, then you're very limited in your actual use of the skill. Same for literacy. You have to be able to talk and read and write and problem solve together. And our society needs people who can do all these things as well. So it's not just skill, just like it's not just the other. It needs to be a married approach. We have 2 textbooks in this class. Nurturing Creativity. Really quick, easy read that is really the foundation from which we will build on. Then we have this second textbook that is actually a collection of articles and publications from the National Association for the Education of Young Children. These articles are typically listed second in the module resources folder, and they're just really great examples. So this week for the environment, all the pages that actually show centers are presented. And that's because you don't need to read that, but I just want you to look at it and study it. Think about the environments, especially preschool and kindergarten, that you have seen that include elements of this. You probably don't have space in your classroom to have all these centers this big all the time, but do you have access to these kinds of supplies? Have you ever offered, and look at the different opportunities within the picture that are being offered? Have you ever offered all of those, each of those? Do you have those somehow in a rotation for your children? And so this just really helps build the examples of what we're reading here, so that you can see it here. And then they actually will then give actual activities and classrooms of how do you do something, introducing a technique. And again, it just is really to help you get your wheels going and to see how the ideas from here are being actually implemented in real classrooms, because these aren't just college classrooms. These are volunteer articles. So people volunteer to share what they're doing within a topic for every edition of their magazines, and that's where all this is coming from. If you have questions, concerns, never hesitate to email. I hopefully will see you some on Zoom, and we're almost done with Module 2. I see lots of people coming in and submitting work, so keep it up. Great work.